All right. Well, welcome everyone. My guest today is a good friend of mine, Dr. Shawn Tassone. He's a holistic gynecologist and author of this new book, The Hormone Balance Bible. Don't be intimidated because you can sort through and kind of find where you fit in all this. And it's a really lovely book. I think Shawn and I we're both Virgos, right?
Yeah.
We have nearby birthdays. I think we're both kind of similar in that, we enjoy the science, but we also kind of see life and health as really like a 360 approach. And so he has a lot of that in the book, which I think is so important. We were talking before we started that, aging definitely is going to change your hormones, but so can things like stress and just maladaptive stress response. So something we all need to work on. I don't know if you watched my IG live, Shawn, but I was really struck by how you said that life expectancy has doubled in the last 200 years. So women didn't even have to deal with the menopause a long time ago.
We just died.
We just died. We didn't have to get that far. I think it's just such great perspective because I think we think that modern life is like just the way it is. Like we have a baby at 40 and we're caring for aging parents at 60, and it's not really the way things always were. So it's just good to know that like whatever seems to be normal now is worth questioning how we show up with like our workload and our habits and all that. So you have these 12 types of archetypes in the book, which I love. Yeah. They all kind of reflect a hormone balance pattern. So I wonder if you could talk about the most common or some of the most common hormone imbalances you see.
Well, it wasn't the one I thought it was going to be. Like there's 12. So I thought the most common one was going to be estrogen dominance and what I call the queen. But far and away across the board, age groups and whatnot, it's testosterone deficiency, which I call the nun for obvious reasons. But testosterone deficiency can feel mostly like for most women, fatigue, especially like in the afternoons. Believe it or not, hair thinning. I think when we think of testosterone, we think of hair growing, but actually if it's too low, it actually thins. And just kind of feeling, decreased libido, not like yourself. And I think we see it across the board for young women because of birth control pills lowers your testosterone. I think we see it in older women because of, poor diet, obesity, things like that.
Okay. So testosterone deficiency is the number one pattern you see per the quiz people are taking. Is that right?
Quiz and labs.
Okay.
And another one that I see a lot is what I call subclinical hypothyroidism, where they don't necessarily meet the criteria. Their lab values are low, so their hormone levels on thyroid are actually really low, but they're normal, but they're low. And then they also are still having a lot of the symptoms.
Okay, so symptoms like probably also some hair loss, fatigue.
Hair thinning, fatigue, brain fog, kind of with that one. You might be just kind of cold all the time, even though it's warm outside right now. But yeah, usually mostly just lethargy kind of throughout the day.
Okay. Yeah, I think I have some of that as well. But my quiz, when I took the quiz, I think, and Shawn is also my practitioner. You called this out on me based on my labs, and the quiz showed the same, that I'm the saboteur, which is like low cortisol and generally low hormones. What's that?
Well, you've been through a lot of stress in the last year or two. I think, for a lot of women, I think one of the examples I give in the book, because I give a couple for each archetype, the saboteur, classic, 30-something, 40-something year old. She's a pharmaceutical rep, drives, 150, 200 miles a day, buys lunch for doctor's offices, so she eats on the go. She's go, crazy hours of the day, and then comes home and has 3 boys under the age of 7, and she does all that stuff at home. And the saboteur is called the saboteur because you are seeing an end result of the other archetype, which is high cortisol. So it goes workaholic first. And then when you live that lifestyle of the workaholic for a long time, then you become a saboteur because you're sabotaging your own health by taking care of everybody else and not yourself.
Yeah. Yeah. A couple of things I really recognized in myself in that chapter was that pattern. I was a clinic owner taking care of clients and my staff while I had like a little child at home under the age of 5. And then also in that category was chronic illness, which I was unwittingly going through with mold for a long time, which is another like um, way that your hormones decrease. Like toxic mold can make for high estrogen, but what I see more often, what I saw in my own body, was just like low hormone levels all over the place. So you get that like chronic fatigue and all that. So is this type also kind of tired wired or mostly tired? Would you see?
What, the saboteur?
Yeah.
Yeah, fatigue's a big one. But weight gain, along with fatigue, low blood sugars, skin changes like dry, kind of thin skin, emotional lability, which I meant thin skin by the actual thickness, not by your thin skin. But actually, if you're irritable and punchy, then you might be a little thin skin too. And just kind of feeling overall just kind of just down, like depressed.
Yeah. Okay. And I think you said one reason, I took some notes here, for depression can be estrogen deficiency. So you talked about, you thought estrogen dominance to be most common, but we know, especially after menopause, estrogen
Yep.
comes lower. Do you find that a lot of women feel depressed at this time of life when they're newly menopausal?
Yeah, and we know that's part of it. That's why a lot of doctors will treat menopause with antidepressants instead of hormones because they're afraid of hormones, but they're not afraid of antidepressants. And a lot of the symptoms go along with it. It is depressive. It's decreased libido, which can make you feel not good. And I think just in general, it's a milestone. For me, it was needing reading glasses. But it's a little bit of a reminder that you're getting older. And so
Yeah.
I think that in and of itself, and for women, it kind of signals that you can't have a baby. Even though you probably didn't want one, it's telling you you're done. And I think for some women who put a lot of value on that maternal side of things or the potential, I think that can cause some depression.
Yeah, for sure. I'm kind of closer to that age now, and my son's getting older, and some friends I have with kids that are still little, I see they're so absorbed in that stage, like go, 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 raising the kids, working, and they just don't have that perspective that just that whole stage is going to end. So take it easy. That'd be my advice during that stage, because it's just a stage, right? Like if you give, like you talked about, giving your all to everyone else, if you're giving your all to everyone else, then when they're all out of the house, you're not going to have a lot left to give. Yeah. So you're the constant, right? So I wonder if you could tell people a little bit about your practice. You still are practicing, as you mentioned earlier. You looked at my Dutch results, ran some blood tests for me, helped me with my hormones. Just tell us about your practice style and maybe how it's evolved over time.
Well, gosh, 12, 15 years ago, Suzanne Summers put me in one of her books as a reference on hormones. And so ever since then, I've been doing tons of hormones, which is actually, I guess I could thank her for the book because I've had all that extra experience over the last few years. I'm in Austin right now. I am actually probably one of the few in this kind of functional integrative space that actually still takes insurance. I don't know how much longer I will do that, but I'm currently doing that. And when COVID was around in full swing, it was kind of nice in the sense that we could do telehealth visits and it really didn't matter where the patient was. Now with telemedicine, you kind of have to have a license in the state where the patient lives. So I still do a lot of consults. I may not be able to prescribe, it just depends on where the patient is, but I can certainly give a recommendation of this is what I would probably put you on if you were my patient. And if they have like a naturopath or somebody that can prescribe for them, they can just take them the recommendations.
Okay. So if you can't prescribe, kind of like in the book, you give a lot of references to foods, essential
Yeah.
oils. Can you tell us kind of
So each of the 12 archetypes has a 6-step, what I call Shine's protocol, which is an acronym for a spiritual practice, hormones, infoceuticals, which is more information transfer to the body, like with essential oils, Reiki, acupuncture, things like that. Nutrition, exercise, and the last S is supplementation. And out of those 6 steps, you really only need a physician for one, for the hormonal. The rest of it is just kind of self-care and kind of self-guided and trying to see what works for you.
awesome. Yeah, there's some really great specific advice with dosages, and I think that's what my community really likes. So I wonder if you could just tell us like how to use a book or who's the book for, because people may want to buy it for someone in their life or
Pretty much any woman, 25-ish to probably 55 or 65, depending on if they're on hormones, if they're in menopause, anybody that's currently on hormones. A lot of your friends, if you've ever yourself or you've heard another woman say, I feel horrible, I've had my hormones checked and they tell me I'm normal, but I don't feel normal. A lot of the women that, I mean, I've probably had 30,000 women take the quiz so far. And I find that these are the women that are up in the middle of the night trying to figure out what's wrong with themselves, and they're online and they're just searching for answers. And it's probably hormonally based, but if we try it from a multifaceted approach, I find that's when women get the best results, is when, you know, you're not spending gobs of money on one thing, but you're just kind of maybe some supplements, changing the nutrition a little bit, maybe adding some hormones if that's what you want to do. And then, you know, just kind of, and I think the other piece is proper follow-up. Part of the reason I think that women don't follow up a lot with functional folks is just the cost. And if your insurance, if it's a $20 or $30 copay, I think that's where I have made inroads, is because women will come back for their follow-up. So sometimes we need to tweak dosages or redraw labs or things like that.
yeah, it's so true. I think hormones, I was saying before you came on, like they're so complex. So we keep studying them kind of forever. And then things keep changing in your body with age and new stressors and that kind of thing. Like I've been working with you for my hormones, but I also ran a heavy metal panel and I have some high heavy metals. So it's like life isn't so simple as just just one thing,
Yeah.
unfortunately. And you have some insights on all of that. One thing about my type you mentioned was to like eat organic and avoid toxins, because you don't need like the overstimulation of more toxins in your body. So I thought that was an interesting tie-in for my case in particular.
Well, it's funny because there's so much more that I could have put in the book, but it's already coming in at 500 pages. So there is no one book that's going to answer everything. I tried, I fought in order to get the book to be that big. I had to give up and I was so depressed, but I had to give up the hardback because they said it would have cost like $50. And so, I had to forego that. But yeah, I really fought for it to be as inclusive as possible, because I wanted, one of the complaints you see about a lot of books that are being sold in the wellness space is that, oh, this is stuff that I could have easily found on the internet. And what I was trying to do here was not just start with a quiz so that women have an idea as to what's going on, just to give them a starting point, and it's entertaining at the same time, but just to get them feeling like, okay, maybe I can go into my physician with this information and say, maybe I should be tested for my thyroid or whatever. And then if they're not getting great feedback from their doctor, then give them easy to do things that they can try themselves before they maybe go the route of hormones.
Yeah, for sure. So I wonder if we could just end on kind of a deeper dive on testosterone. You said that was the number one thing that came up, and I love testosterone as a woman. Like, I think it makes me feel amazing. I think a lot of people don't appreciate it enough, and there are some easy things you can do to boost it. So yeah, just get us started on that if you don't mind.
So testosterone is made by the ovaries mostly and the adrenal glands. So Did you change your screen?
Oh, I just am sharing the quiz while we talk.
Okay. So yeah, testosterone is made usually by adrenal glands and ovaries. So when your ovaries aren't functioning properly, you're going to lose a big chunk of your testosterone. And the problem is that most women, one, don't realize that testosterone is a big player. Two, the doctors they're seeing don't know it's a big player. Or it's just general society doesn't think that women need testosterone. There's 10 forms of testosterone replacement for men, and there's 0 for women, FDA approved.
Wow, really?
Yeah, 0 FDA approved forms of testosterone. We can get testosterone made bioidentically, but you can't just go, you can't just prescribe a pill or something. So testosterone is super important. It's good for bones. It's good for muscle mass. Muscle mass is obviously good for bones and metabolism. Testosterone for a woman is also, it's a really good feel-good hormone. It just makes you feel better and more in touch with yourself. And, I've often said if low testosterone was a t-shirt, it would say meh. It would just say, you just don't care about the things that you used to care about. And so you can boost testosterone by doing weight training. You could try high intensity interval cardio. The problem for a lot of women though is they want to do that stuff, but they may not be able to because they don't feel very good. And so sometimes starting testosterone just to get you feeling better, then you can get the workouts going, then you can build up stuff, eating, more protein. A good friend of ours, Gabrielle Lyon, talks a lot about protein, and you probably do too. But women usually in general don't get enough good proteins in their diets. At least probably 1 gram per pound of body weight, I would say, is a good starting point. And trying to do weights. Weights are super important for testosterone.
Yeah, I was reading your book and I think I'm not getting enough protein. Like I certainly eat meat and I'm not afraid of protein, but I just don't think I'm hitting the kind of numbers that you described. So I did some like collagen and a sauce I made last night. And I think I'm going to just do more protein shakes because that's just like such a huge boost. So even if it's just like I don't love to drink my food, but even if it's like supplemental, like I'm having a shake and like a breakfast, I think could be a good idea for me. So yeah, and I love weight training, but you and I have talked about, and we've talked about with some recent guests, like, yeah, if your body, if your hormones are off, sometimes like your recovery isn't great. So I just try to be balanced and thoughtful about how much I work out. Like sometimes I'm maybe working out harder, but resting more days. And some days I like just do lighter weight, which still seems to work okay for me. So yeah, I think testosterone, and it's really, especially when we talked about aging and the sort of depression that can come with it, when you're like making muscle and feeling really like in your body, I think that's a pretty strong antidote to that age-related depression. So it's nice.
I think, anytime you can get out and just move or do something, I think it's good for your testosterone levels.
Okay. Any other tips with like supplements that we can access that can help for testosterone?
I'm a huge fan of maca. I'm also a huge fan of the type of maca. I like Feminescence. I'm sure you've talked about that product before. It's had a lot of research done on it. The other thing about supplements is getting, it's in there if it says it's in there. So a good trusted brand. A couple of elements that are good for women are like zinc and boron, and making sure that, you have decent levels of zinc. You don't want to go overboard, but, taking or eating foods that are high in zinc, protein, and boron will help. There are some supplements out there, believe it or not, horrible names like horny goatweed and
it's a Chinese one, as you know. Yeah.
Yohimbine can work. Yohimbine, you have to be a little careful because it can mess with blood pressure, but that can help with testosterone as well. So there's definitely things you can try.
Yeah, we sell a formula Designs for Health, libido stim. I don't know if
Yep.
you know that one.
Yeah.
It has some, yeah, some herbs and then some
I think that
DHEA.
one has like Damiana and maybe probably ashwagandha or something as well. They probably put some adaptogenic herbs in there as well.
Yeah, it
And
has like 5
probably
different things. Go
maybe
ahead.
Tribulus terrestris is
I think
another.
it does have that. Yeah, and they have a male formula too. We don't sell it yet because we see more women, but we can get that one for folks too. That was one I went on maybe 4 years ago, and I was shocked how well it worked. Like my sex drive came back like in a month. Um, and I think like you said sometimes it's good to supplement because I noticed in my own body, like when my hormone production is low, it can be hard to like spark it back naturally. So doing some DHEA or testosterone, it's just like, wow. And then it seems like my body sort of gets the hang of it again. So even if I go off testosterone cream or whatever, I just seem to still feel that like extra energy. So yeah, I think this is great advice, great tips. You know, my audience is super knowledgeable about health, but we all are changing, like we said, and I think we can get in ruts where we're eating the same foods
Oh, yeah.
and taking the same supplements. And maybe it's time to boost your testosterone. Maybe that's like something that will really change you sort of more than detox, what I talk about a lot. So just being open-minded to reevaluating where you're at and trying some new things can really be a needle mover for your health.
Yeah, and seeing the same people all the time. No, I'm kidding.
Yeah, mix it up. Any questions before we let Dr. Tassone go, guys? And thanks for being on live. I always enjoy having some live listeners here. Virginia asks, I think she's asking, is the testosterone cream for vaginal use?
Usually the creams, you can use it vaginally. I tend to do more just skin topical application. I think the vaginal creams are just messy.
Okay. Yeah, I'm on a cream right now and I've just been putting it like on my butt basically or my stomach. It just absorbs that way. And if you have a local compounding pharmacy,
I think that might be TMI now that we know you put it in your bowl.
You can all just think about that visual. And I haven't taken it in years, but I was just really fatigued this winter. And again, like I felt like this was the right time that I got a full Dutch test. And I just felt like I was just in another point in my life where I needed that bridge or that boost. Dr. Tassone has put me on some thyroid medication as well that I've never taken, and it feels fantastic. I just don't think I was prescribed the right one in the past, so I didn't like it.
Yeah, I mean, the part of the thing is the follow-up. So like, let's say that you started it and this happens sometimes. I'll get women, I just don't feel any different. Okay, well, let's check your levels again. Sometimes I get about 1 out of every 20 women just doesn't absorb the cream through their skin, and I have to switch them to like a sublingual lozenge. So it just varies.
Yeah, I think I need to retest. And yeah, we talked about, chronic stress and different things happening in your life. And I also really am a believer that like sometimes you need, like, become so depleted that it's just nice to get the actual hormones for a little while, and just give your body that nurturing until it can kind of reset. I just heard this such a pretty thing on this call I was on this morning, Shawn. I want to share with you. And it's talking about masculine and feminine energy, and that feminine energy is kind of like holding space for your fear and discomfort is one thing it does. And I thought that was so beautiful because I think as women, we can just like push forward, try to achieve by doing, which is very masculine. But both men and women need to just hold space for ourselves and the difficulties in our lives. And he said in the call, like, if you don't learn how to do that, you'll get sick. And I thought, wow, it's really beautiful. And I think it's something I'm finally learning to do in my life that I didn't know how to do sooner. So sometimes these hormonal messages can just be such beautiful teachers for how we can like shift into the
And that's part of the thing with the archetypes too. It's a story, and each of the imbalances has its own storyline that I think, like, you resonated with the story of the saboteur, And that's coming from the thousands of women that I've listened to in the past that have told me the stories. So that's why I think women connect with it.
Yeah. So yeah, you've had a lot of experience hearing all this, and that's something I really love about Dr. Tassone is like he really is listening to women and listening to their stories. And we get he talks about in the book, we often get dismissed for our stories or just quickly medicated, but our stories are important. It's like the arc of our life, and if we want to change our story, we have to listen to our bodies and have the right people supporting us. So definitely, I think you can learn new things from the book, or give it to a girlfriend who's going through some things. And if you're looking for a practitioner, I don't know if you want any more clients or not, Shawn, but he's got a great website and he's been a great practitioner for me. So thank you so much for coming on.
Thanks for having me on. It was good
I
seeing you.
really appreciate this, and we'll get this up on YouTube and share it, keep sharing it for you.
Have a good day.
Thanks, everybody. We'll see you next week. Next week, we're talking about gut infections and microbiofilms and stuff like that with Dr. Jocelyn from Biobotanical Research. So that'll be a good one as well. So we'll see you next week. Bye, everybody. Thank you.